Hello there. Grace to you, my fellow deaf people, as well as everyone else in the outside world as well. You may kind of wonder why I'm kind of caught off guard. Really, I was just joking. This is all planned because, hey, I do have my daily teaching that I am planning, and I pray that you will pray for me to make sure I do a good job doing that. Now, today's topic, I kind of thought about it, and I thought, well, I think it should be pastor. I myself am Pastor Kevin. Some people call me Reverend Kevin, but I am Pastor Kevin. And I've been a pastor now for, 18 years. 18 years I've been preaching and teaching. Some people think I'm still a kid. I say, don't I look old? Look at this receding hairline. But in all this time, being a pastor and teaching, sometimes it's been a truly wonderful experience, just a great upper, and sometimes it's a great downer with the emotional turmoil, all the battles you have to go through. But in all that, God is indeed sovereign. Is a pastor's job an easy job? Some people say, oh, Pat, you've got an easy job as a pastor. You have to just work on Sunday and Wednesday, and that's all there is. And you have no idea. Spend a little time in my shoes, you'll be screaming bloody murder. Really, the job of a pastor is not easy. There's a lot of emotions involved. There's grief. There's joy. So with the joy, you do have that great uplifting experience. But sometimes you encounter people who are stubborn, or you have to do discipline, which may even involve removing a person from the body. It's not an easy job. Not in the least. I really thank God for His great grace of being with me every day, because without Him, I would have been out of this field a long time ago. I could not continue to serve in the capacity of pastor without Him. He's enabled me to endure. Now you say, wow, you're working at this hour? That's a lot of time. I said, yeah, but first let me tell you where we got the word pastor. Where is it that term has come from? It's in Ephesians 4, verse 11, and it uses the word pastor, which really, if you look at the Greek, means shepherd. So there you can see a shepherd with his staff, and if a sheep goes astray, can hook it and bring it back in. That is the role of the shepherd, and that is what God has called me to do. Now there are other verses in the Bible that mention the shepherd, such as 1 Peter 5:2, which is very clear defining that term. I'm called to shepherd God's flock, such as the church. It is my responsibility to watch over the church, protect it, because the church is God's flock. I'm just put in to shepherd it. I just shepherd the lives of the local congregation, and I am under the auspices, the guidance of the good shepherd, the one who is best, which is Jesus Christ. He is first and foremost as a shepherd. I'm responsible for caring for His flock until He comes to claim them, or He calls us all home. Now, is the job of a pastor really easy, schedule-wise? No. It's a 6-day job. Sometimes it's 20 hours in a day. Sometimes it's 100 hours in a week. Sometimes you may be called to visit 5 hospitals in a day or two. And sometimes things are quiet. And then you have a family that suffers a death, and you have to tend to the family. There is just a variety of circumstances in which you find yourself. But my primary job is to study the Word of God. Why? Because I have to use it to feed His sheep. I use the Word of God to feed the flock, and that's of utmost importance. Sometimes people say, I call you on the video phone, you don't answer, or you're a little slow to respond. You kind of drag your feet on that. Again, my primary responsibility is to be in close communion with the Lord. Secondly, my wife, I'm supposed to show her love, provide for her needs. Thirdly, my children, oversee them, making sure that their growing up to become adults isn't done in a godly manner that honors the Lord. And fourth is my flock. I have to oversee them. And currently I am serving in that capacity for 2 churches. one in Indianapolis and one in Danville. Is one more important than the other? No, they're on parity with each other because God has called me to care for both congregations equally. I tend both flocks on an equal manner, and it could someday become a third flock. Who knows? It's all within God's will. I have to trust that He will do so in a manner that is wise. I thank God we have the technology of video phones that allows me to do that distance shepherding. Now, there are some people outside of the church who are not Christians, or there are Christians who are in isolation. I encourage them to get in with one of those two churches, so therefore it's easier to be a shepherd for them. When they're outside of those two congregations, then they fall in line after the needs of the flocks are addressed. And some people say, well, hey, what about me? And they just have to be patient with me, because I do have the two flocks I love dearly, and I need to be sure that I am there for them and show them the cherished love that I do have for them. Now, some of you who've been watching me on these vlogs, if you have a church, it's important that you stay in those churches. Cherish your pastor. Show them the respect that they deserve, because they are indeed working for you. If you don't have a church and you're at a loss of what to do and there's just nothing around you, you're in isolation, contact me and we will find a way to care for you. May not be physically moving you, but via live stream sermons or through the vlogs or video phone calls, we can find a way to give you the care you need. That is the job of the pastor. That is the calling of tending to God's flock, which is of the utmost importance, as I've already said. It is a great burden. It is a great responsibility. But I thank God for His providence, because without Him, I would have been gone a long time ago. But with His assistance, I'm able to endure, continue to teach and preach, and enjoy what I go through, even though sometimes I have the emotional sadness. But that is God's design. Have you learned something? Does it give you something to ponder and think about? Sometimes pastors go astray. They are not really gifted, such as in Acts 6:4, in studying the Word of God and praying, both combined. I've got a large number of books, if you can see them here. I've got those books, but plus books on another bookshelf in the other room. And these are tools that I use. I have to do a lot of reading so that I can adequately feed my flock. But the most important tool is right here, the Holy Bible. That is first and foremost in my toolkit. So that, as well as prayer. These other books help me prepare for my sermons so that I can feed the people of the Lord. That is my duty. That is my calling and responsibility. A pastor cannot forego knowledgeable texts. He should love those. Sometimes there is very little time. The pastor may not pay attention to his wife, his family, his church, and in those circumstances, things would get really dangerous. You can see a pastor go astray or suffer a divorce. I remember, and thank God for using one man by the name of Eugene Bourdain. And I really miss him because he has gone home to be with the Lord some time ago. But he called me to go to an event at his church, and it just so happened my wife hurt her back, and I was kind of at a loss. I called him on the TTY, because at that time we didn't have video phones yet, and I explained the circumstance that my wife had hurt her back. I'm not sure what I can do. Maybe I can be there a little late, maybe a day late. And he said, no. And I was like, no? What do you mean, no? He was being a wise, older pastor, and I thank God for using that wisdom of maturity to say, Kevin, don't cheat on your wife. And I was like, cheat on my wife? He said, yeah, don't spend so much time showing your ministry love that you don't show your wife the love she deserves. And I've kept that in mind ever since. Some people aren't happy with me when I tend to my family first, such as my wife, and then the church. And people say, well, what about me? I'm sorry, that's the calling that God has put me into. And that's the order of obedience that I live within. God has called me to be a pastor, and I could possibly be your pastor. So I really love each and every one of you, and I cherish the deaf community, and I want all of you to know and understand how a church works on its inner working. So God be with you. Grace to you, my fellow deaf people. I love you, as well as you hearing people too.